When will we see an MLS win for the Philadelphia Union? Winless? Still waiting on that one win. First win of 2024 for the MLS play. Welcome to PHY Union Podcast. We've got Tyler Zulli, who you can actually see today, and myself, Renee Washington. JP Zapata is away right now, enjoying his trip in Puerto Rico with his fiance. And so you just get Tyler and I today. Tyler, we're matching almost. We actually are matching, but I don't
know what your camera's doing to your shirt there.
Is it red or is it orange? It's like the dress. It's basically the same thing.
No, it's not. It's definitively not, because you can actually try to take a guess what your shirt is today. That dress, there's no controversy.
There was, though. I saw it both colors. So I get it. I totally get it. All right, here's the deal. We've got a lot to talk about that we're going to run through today on our show, because the Union are still seeking a win in MLS play after drawing 2-2 against Austin. We also have updates just talking through the team and what it's going to take to win. Plus, Cavan Sullivan and Manchester City are getting closer and closer to that final deal. It's getting close. We got to iron out those details. And then Jack McGlynn and Nate Harriel with the call-up to the U.S. men's national team. They're two of 8 different Union players that actually got the call-up, because we are nearing the international break in MLS play, which is wild, because here we are mid-March, and yes, it is time. So let's start with the first things, the win. First things first, the Philadelphia Union draw their third straight in MLS play. Austin, actually, with their third straight as well. They're also still looking for a win. There are a few teams across the league that are still winless. The Union are one of them. And yes, you can say, oh, they're undefeated, though, Tyler. They're undefeated to start out 2024. Technically, yes, in MLS play.
Don't do that.
But no, they are undefeated. That's real.
Yeah, statistically speaking, they've not lost a game. But, are we really going to, have pomp and circumstance for draw after draw after draw after draw?
Perspective, we can either say, oh, they're winless, or yay, they're undefeated.
Yeah, yes, they are winless, correct. Or they're undefeated, correct. But they currently sit 13th in the Eastern Conference standings, because for the most part, every team in the East has a win, with the exception of Orlando, that's more stunning to me.
That is very shocking.
Than because the Union have 3 draws, right? They're 0-3-0 because of the whole game against Seattle. Orlando being 0-1-3
I know.
is kind of strange to me.
Yeah, these problems could always be worse problems. This is that reminder. On the West Coast side, you've got Austin, who's still looking for a win, because they've got 3 ties and a loss. You've got Seattle, who the Union were supposed to play 2 weekends ago, that are still looking for a win, 0-2-1. And then San Jose, who just has 4 losses, doesn't even have a tie. And as you mentioned, in the East, the Union, along with Orlando City and then New England, the Revs having a slow start to the year with their 4 L's. So, yeah, the Union aren't alone at the bottom of the barrel, but it's not great to see the fact that there are I think the more discouraging thing for me is the fact that the teams that the Union have tied, Austin, as I just read off, bottom of the West, Chicago, who sits at number 10 currently, and also, of course, Sporting Kansas City. These are teams that aren't expected to be top teams this season. So had they had draws against, maybe Columbus, Miami, totally different ballgame, but you're barely tying at that. Barely tying teams that are not high up or have high expectations this season.
And
so that's frustrating.
On top of all of that, at least you could sit here and say, the one thing that the Revs have that the Union don't, when you're talking about the fact that they don't have a win in MLS play, you know what the Revs are still doing? They're still playing CONCACAF soccer. Because obviously, now granted, listen, I think it's unfair. It's a little unfair to compare the two, because the Revs draw was an easier draw than Pachuca against the Union that the Union had. But, and now they're going to go up against Club America, and they're probably going to get crushed. Yeah. But they are in the final 8, the quarterfinals, if you will, of CONCACAF the CONCACAF tournament now.
They did make it further, and so they are still juggling the chaos of the CONCACAF Champions Cup play as well as MLS play. So, okay, there's a reason. Now, hit that thumbs up button while you're joining. Join the conversation because we are starting a little bit earlier than usual because there's no need to wait. Let's jump right in. Let's talk about it. So this was the first ever MLS meeting between the Union and Austin, and I actually had a chance to join a show for Austin, one of their local podcasts that they do. Not the team does, but that they have in the area. And it's ironic because Austin has had some similar issues to the Union. They've had major injuries. They've had some depth issues. They've been struggling to get results. And so for Austin, they did have the return of one of their star players, Sebastian Driussi, who came into the game in the second half. They have had issues of like, who's going to be the one to score? What's our defense going to do? But unfortunately, that's been the same issue for the Union that we still had consistently. CONCACAF play and MLS play, where you see them come out, score in the opening 15 minutes, and Austin has notoriously had slow starts. That's actually been an area, as I was learning more and more about their team coming into this matchup. That's an area that they've been focusing on that's been frustrating. They've been starting games slowly. They've been giving up goals in the early minutes. And so that's something that the Union were able to capitalize on, scoring in those first 15. Daniel Gazdag scores off of a penalty kick. Now with that,
No.
Gazdag, I know.
Is that how that works?
With that, that was his first goal since the season opener against Chicago, February 24th. So nearly a month in between the goals for one of the leading goal scorers for the team in Daniel Gazdag. But then on top of that, he did at least become the first player in MLS history to convert each of his first 20 PKs to start off his career. So congrats to him on that. But it's unfortunate because you get a free kick from Kai Wagner that leads to a penalty kick for Daniel Gazdag to score. And it's the same issue that we've talked about many, many times on the show of the inability to score goals in the run of play. Here you are again, relying on a penalty kick goal to be able to put you on the scoreboard. And even with the Union kind of dominating the first half, go into the break up 1-0, and then you have Austin able to score 2 goals within the span of a couple of minutes before Mikel Ua's goal to equalize things in the 66th minute. So it was a weird game, looking at just the ups and downs of it, the ebbs and flows. Both teams very inconsistent in stretches of times where they just looked like they fell asleep. But for the Union, that has been the concern. You're up 1-0 against Austin on the road. You have a chance to try to get that second insurance goal. Instead, you end up trailing 2-1, Tyler. That's not great.
Yeah, I think the one thing that when you were talking about, are they winless or are they undefeated? And we were kind of joking about it. But the one thing that does stand out is this team is having to play like cardiac kids too frequently. Yeah. And, eventually that luck, skill, whatever you want to call it, whatever the combination is, whatever the percentage of the two is, eventually that cardiac mentality is going to run out.
Yeah.
And, do I want to sit here and be Mr. Pessimistic about the whole thing? No, not really. But the flow of play that you talked about seems to be pretty easy to digest at this point, because to me, the run of play is created by like 3 guys at this point, and then you're hoping for something to happen. Because I was sitting here talking about the second game against Pachuca the other night, and granted, like the 6th goal, it got out of hand, it exploded.
Very fast.
Them losing 2-0, them losing 6-0. After 2, it didn't really matter to me at that point. Now I know that like it looks terrible, but like you go down 2-0, it's okay. You're still in this game. You go down 3, it's like this game's probably over, and then it just snowballs. But the one thing that I was saying was usually you get 1 or 2 really massive Andre Blake saves. Yeah. That's kind of how that happens. And then the dictation of how this team plays is Gazdag set pieces. It's Jack McGlynn probably being your best passing midfielder. It's relying upon Quinn Sullivan to be young and spry and athletic and one of the better players on the field. And then you're hoping something happens within the 18.
Yeah.
And when I'm playing, like that over and over and over again cyclical motion of this team, it does become a little bit frustrating to see how I don't want to say one-track mind that they are, but you talked about this plenty of times. Different pace of play, different opportunities, different modes at which you want to score or you want to attack. I think that it's kind of wearing on a lot of people.
I think that's what it is. Honestly, it felt like this game, so there's a couple factors here. When you look at the goals that were given up and the chances that have been consistently happening that they've been given up, it's them looking exhausted and having these like breaks. Like both goals were ball gets sent into the box. You have, first of all, as a defender or the defending team, you're never facing your goal to clear it out. That's how a lot of own goals happen. So there's the body.
Does Jacob Glessens know that?
I know. The body language is wrong to begin with, because if you look at the goals again, you see a lot of guys reaching to try to like turn and kick it. They're facing Andre. Problem number one. Problem number two is you're not reaching. You need to get your body behind the ball so that worst case, the ball takes a funny spin or bounce or whatever. It's hitting off your body and out facing up the field. You always want to get your hips and your shoulders facing up the field. And so as I watch those goals, I'm like, these are kind of lazy goals. Your body language is wrong. And then on top of that, you're not marking up. And I know I've said that even back last postseason. I remember saying at the end of the season, the goals they were giving up against FC Cincinnati, the goals they were giving up were goals where guys are wide open in the box. And it's not that they're outnumbered. They're not getting caught in transition and outnumbered. The Union had, much like today, much like Sporting Kansas City, much like Chicago, honestly a good defensive shape, but they just kind of stopped. And you even see like the defender stopped, Nate Harrell stops, Damian Lowe's reaching, Jack Elliott's out of position, and everybody for Austin is just running towards the goal, aggressively attacking it, following through. There's no urgency defensively to want to clear it. And yes, you can argue Mikel Uwa's goal was the exact same way, to be honest, where Austin did not mark up. There were two guys back post, Uwa one of them, who finished, and they didn't do a good job. But that's the different games than losing games. So I'm not going to say, Austin did it, so it's fine that Union did it, because that's not the barometer. The bar isn't to be just better than Austin. The bar is to be, okay, Inter Miami, Columbus Crew, FC Cincinnati, the top teams, they're not letting that happen. They're getting organized. They're getting matched up. They're not leaving guys wide open. For rebounds, they're seeing it all the way out. And so I was a little frustrated because of the fact, here you are again, putting yourself in a situation, as you mentioned, Tyler, that requires this stressful game. Instead of taking care of business, you're up 1-0. Keep the lead, protect the lead, make it a 2-0 game. Give yourself that insurance goal. But this has been every single game, actually minus Pachuca, 6-0 whomping. Even the CONCACAF games, Saprissa, the first leg, every single game is like a hold your breath, down to the wire, scary game. And that's where a 2-2 draw where you're always down, a 1-1 draw where you're down and Ali Bedoya scores in the final minutes is exhausting. A 0-0 draw, to be honest, you see that happen a lot of times in soccer where it's like bad weather. LAFC's game last year, great example. Terrible weather, ended up being a 0-0 draw. It was just ugly soccer. I understand that. That sometimes happens. You can't score, balls all around the goal, nobody can finish. But when you're now like every single game they've tied, they've been trailing. You're trailing, clawing back, down 1-0 against Chicago, down 2-1 against Chicago, down 1-0 against Sporting Kansas City in the final minute, down 2-1. Like, you can't also be always playing catch up. That stuff wears on you. And the defense, I was talking about it earlier with one of our fellow producers, Andrew, and he was like, what's going on with the Union? It's like, they look tired. And we are in March. And they're about to go on an international break and play even more soccer. And the team looks fatigued. They're getting like lazy at times. There's some tendencies that just aren't great. And then there's times that look really good. It's too much up and down, because already you're seeing kind of that wear and tear of having the season start off the same way last season ended, all of these ties and close games.
And I think the one thing too, and I hate to play the like comparison of opponent skill. But the games that you battle and you do trail and you find a way to draw against Columbus, Cincinnati, against Miami. You look at that in a different light.
Correct.
Than you look at a battle from behind draw to Chicago. Like the thing with Chicago is, like, we've talked about this team plenty, and you and JP talked about them a lot. They're pretty easy to dictate.
Yeah.
They're going to score. They have 8 goals in 4 games.
Yeah.
They're average, 2 goals a game is a pretty solid number. They're giving up 9. The 9, just in the Eastern Conference alone, is the second or the third, because Orlando and New England have each given up 10, is the third most goals allowed. Chicago is going to give up a lot of goals. They're going to score a lot of goals. But the point being is, when you have an opponent like Chicago and you're having to claw your way back into a game, that doesn't allow you breathing room. And it's kind of almost like you remember, in the NBA when they talk about like old school load management, which is really just like you're blowing out your opponent and your best players are not going to play in the fourth quarter. I don't want to compare the two because obviously it's a much finer line of, margin line in soccer when the ultimate goal is, this is going to sound ridiculous. Please just bear with me for a second. The ultimate goal is 1 point, right? And obviously, don't be like, oh, Tyler doesn't know what a goal is called. But like, the culmination of success is 1. Yes. Whereas in basketball, margin can spread very, very quickly.
I get that. I get that.
My point being is, I understand that you're not going to sit here and go, well, you should beat Chicago 10-0. That's not how this works. But if you are in a situation where you're comfortably leading 2-0 or 1-0 even, and you feel like you're controlling the pace of play, you have an opportunity to kind of squash the need for heroics.
Exactly.
And therefore, it's a little less strenuous and taxing on your guys when you do realize you have Saprissa coming up, you have Pachuca coming up, you have better MLS
versus
teams
you're
coming
chasing every game.
Right.
Not to mention, as we talk about the standings from this year, looking at the standings last year, the Union actually had what some may consider an easier start to 2024 because you faced off against a team for Austin and Chicago that finished bottom 3 of their respective conferences. Sporting Kansas City was more middle of the pack in that 8th spot. We saw them last season, postseason 2 as well. Portland, who they're facing this upcoming weekend, finished 10th in the West. You actually have a chance to go up against Seattle. Was the only team that finished like top 5 in their respective conference in your first 5 games. Of course, that game gets rained out. You actually had a chance to kind of ease into the MLS, quote unquote, and instead you're struggling against these teams. So like you said, a big part of this that is the frustrating piece is you're not coming back against, LAFC or Inter Miami or Columbus or Cincinnati or Montreal, and it's like this exciting game. You're having these exciting games against teams that you should be getting 3 points against. You should be walking away with a win. Maybe you drop 1 because of all the early amount of games that they had with CONCACAF games, but now you're done with that. It's frustrating because you're talking about, we squeezed out a point against Sporting Kansas City, squeezed out a point against Chicago, against Austin. That's not good enough, especially because it feels like a major step backwards. And it also just more importantly feels like this team is exactly where they were at the end of last season when they went on that 6-7 game tying streak of inability to get results, inability to get wins, most importantly. And then you have, as you talk about also, you're chasing games. Now, it's just as bad if you're up and you always lose the lead and end up tying. That's also bad too. But to be chasing games, in soccer, we love those moments of like this hard fought back and forth game, lots of goals happening, down to the wire with like a goal scored in stoppage time. But you love those games when it's against a good team. You don't love those games when it's against these teams that I know, like Chicago, someone I predicted to be bottom 3 in the conference.
I think a lot of people did.
And because they were last year. Seattle had higher expectations for them, of course. But everybody else they've played in this early part of MLS play has been a team that you expected to be middle or bottom of the barrel. And there's the Union scrapping and clawing with the worst of them. Not the best, the worst of them.
Your 3 results so far, your tying goal, your bounce back goal, the earliest that goal came in any one of those 3 games was the 65th minute. Now, granted, 65th minute means there's still 25 minutes plus of soccer left to play. That's plenty of time to score an equalizer or a game winner.
That's a good point, though.
But when you look at the first 2 games, 93rd minute from Bedoya and 95th minute against Chicago.
That's so true.
Like, you're truly playing cardiac kids against the clock here. And at what point do we sit here and say that like maybe this? And granted, we know that they drew a lot last year, and we were asking for more and more and more. But
for sure,
to me, this feels like the most desperate I've been early in the season. for a win. And JP and I were talking about it just a couple weeks ago, and he asked me, like, when do you start to get nervous? And I said, not yet. I think everything is still fine.
Yeah,
You're
it's
playing
still early,
CONCACAF.
but
You're playing twice in a week for 4 straight weeks. And here I am only 2 results later, and my entire mindset seems to have flipped. And I don't think that that's fair over the course of they still have 30 games left to play or whatever it comes down to be. But I feel entirely different now than I did 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or 3 weeks ago, or whatever it was.
Here's the concern. It's the fact that that's a really good point that you bring up with when the goals happen, because it's not a situation. I go back to my 0-0 comparison. Had this been games where, actually much like this past Saturday, you have opportunities, the Union go up 1-0, the Austin comes back, takes a 2-1 lead, the Union score minutes later. It's like an early, you're scoring, and you're getting opportunities down to the end. But this one was not that. I mean, the 2 prior games were not that. It was literally the Union were happy to get away with a tie. Like, they should have lost. They could have lost. And so that's the other frustrating part. That's why I use the 0-0 comparison, because there are those games where you have both teams are playing well, just unable to score. But it's been very easy. We're like a couple minutes away from this 0-3 start being like one draw and 2 losses. Like, the Union are very close to having just a tie on their ledger so far at this point. So overall, it's kind of frustrating when you take a look at exactly how they've been playing, how things have been going. And honestly, it's frustrating because it's like we feel like broken. I feel like a broken recorder at this point, tape recorder, like repeating the same thing over and over again, saying the same thing over and over again, asking for the same things over and over again, and wanting to get some better results, wanting to see them actually play better. And listen, all of this is frustrating, and a lot of fans are kind of, I feel like, getting to that breaking point. And all I can say is one thing that can help you out is a nice, refreshing Coors Light. Because listen, if you feel stressed out and you want a nice opportunity to just kind of kick back, relax, cool off, get away from the day-to-day frustrating aspects of life, get away from the frustration of the Philadelphia Union, Coors Light is the place you can do that. Now, with Coors Light, they do a great job of just providing you an opportunity to have nice Coors Light. Think about it in your hand, just ignoring all the aspects of what's going on with the Philadelphia Union, sipping on a Coors Light, cracking open a nice Coors Light. And with them, you get, the cold filtered, cold lagered, cold smooth finish. You also get a time that you can just chill. Mountain cold refreshing, guys. Crisp and refreshing. That sounds great right now, Tyler, especially given the frustration that we're talking through of the Philadelphia Union. And when you want to choose a time to chill, to cool off, to relax, you can do that with Coors Light. When you want to choose a time to just rise above it all, clear your head, get away from all the noise, choose Coors Light. And you can also get it delivered straight to your door. So using Instacart, you can go to CoorsLight.com/PHLY soccer, get a chance to enjoy that delicious Coors Light. Make sure that you're, kick back. You don't even have to leave your house. And again, you head over to CoorsLight.com/PHLY soccer. Get it delivered right to your door. I'm encouraging it. We all deserve a nice, refreshing, cold Coors Light to really be able to give us a break from all the stress that's going on with the Philadelphia Union to start off the season. So celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado. Coors Light for the win. The Union might not be able to get the win, but Coors Light for the win, folks. And while we're at it, let me also tell you about another place that does a fantastic job. They're licensed in many states, including Colorado, including Pennsylvania, New Jersey. That's Mortgage CS. Mortgage CS, which stands for Mortgage Concierge Service. They are a white glove service located right here in Philly, but they also are licensed to work with a number of different states. So if you're out west in California or Colorado, down south in Florida, which is where Tyler, myself, and our buddy Jamie Lynch just were for our Phillies coverage around spring training.
It was a little bit warmer there, huh?
It was a little bit warmer, that's for sure. Mortgage CS is located in a lot of different states, providing you great 24/7 customer service and wanting to make sure you have the best opportunities to make a strong offer, stand out from the competition, and also find ultra competitive rates that work best for you and for your family. They want to make sure to educate and empower you. They want to make sure to help provide you with, the comfort of knowing you can reach out any time of day. Morning, afternoon, night. You can talk about what's going on with the Philadelphia Union. You can talk about what's going on with the weather, your travel plans, or of course, your house buying plans. So you can reach out to them. Ben and Alec are the 2 guys you can get in touch with at any time. Their CEO, Ben, even has given his personal phone number, which is right there on your screen. down there. You can call 267-391-7425. You can shoot them a text or you can email ben@mortgagecs.com any time of day to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And they also want to make sure you know that in addition to their great customer service and their help on the house buying side, you also can tap into some refinancing options that they offer because they want to also provide you with chances around rate and term refinances for a rate payment reduction, any cash out refinances, a tap into home equity, or maybe some at-home projects. So head on over to mortgagecs.com/PHLY to get started and understand that this advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply, and the company NMLS ID number 1464766. You can visit mortgagecs.com for more information. All right, so next week we'll be getting back to our usual schedule. I know today's Tuesday, which we haven't done in a while. It's been a long time since we've had our Tuesday shows. But we will be back here on Thursday previewing the upcoming games. So I personally don't even want to start to look ahead to Portland because it's been a lot for the Union. It's a lot to process. I don't want to jump the gun here and start talking about that 10:30 p.m. kickoff Eastern time on Saturday against Portland. Late.
I'm sorry. The what?
10:30 p.m. bedtime.
Okay.
10:30 p.m. bedtime. I want to be asleep at bedtime. Yeah, Saturday night. Saturday nights used to be an exciting thing, but 10:30 on a Saturday, it's hard to stay awake. Hopefully, we'll be able to stay awake for some great soccer this Saturday. But we're not going to get there yet because let's not overcomplicate things. So the Union now, 3 draws on the season, still searching for that first win. We've talked time and time again about what it's going to take to get that first win. I just think that it needs to be done at this point. They know what to do. Unfortunately, the back line has been struggling. There's been so many different combinations we've seen on the back line. Outside back, Nate Harriel, Kai Wagner, Olivier Mbaizo. Of course, Nate Harriel had to slot into center back. That was just a temporary thing since Damian Lowe and Jack Elliott were both out and unable to play. So Jacob Glesnes, Jack Elliott, Damian Lowe have been rotating at center back. It's been the back line's been struggling for sure. It's been a lot of at times getting caught flat, getting caught, leaving guys open in dangerous scoring areas, which has led to those actual scoring and goals. The midfield, we've seen some different rotations. Did see the Union play a 4-3-3 on Saturday, which I enjoyed. I've been actively talking about the 4-3-3 and as an formation I feel like works for them. That's how you look at the goal that Ua scored. It's Nate Harriel overlapping, getting the ball from Jose Martinez, driving it across for Ua to finish. Because they attack so much through their outside backs, the 4-3-3 just gives them even more space to get forward, which is a benefit. You had Gazdag, Carranza, and Ua up top. The heavy hitters, right? The big trio, right? It was definitely an interesting formation. I did like seeing Quinn Sullivan back in the midfield. But overall, this group, 4-3-3, 4-4-2, offensively still not able, even though they generated some really good looks. I think it's so much that comes through their outside backs, especially like some of their best chances. The second goal, actually the first goal too, was Kai Wagner setting it up off the free kick. It's Kai Wagner off of the half volley. It's Nate Harriel getting forward for a service. It's a lot on their outside backs to defend and also help them create. And it's frustrating. I know, Gavin, what's up, Gavin? You're saying you just won a friendly tournament on FC 24 with the Union. Hopefully that one can carry over to real life is what we need to have happen. Nice to have you here. Let's get that.
Well, that means Gavin can finish chances inside the 18.
Yeah, you must have them scoring goals,
Crazy
Gavin.
How that works. Well, so the one thing too that you were talking about with the fact you go, just got to get it over with. You just have to get over the hump and get this win. They're going to be without a lot of guys this weekend.
Oh,
a lot of guys.
Thanks for the
weekend.
reminder.
So obviously this is an international break coming up, as you mentioned, plus the Olympics. The Olympic men national team is coming up as well, or at least camp is. I don't know how much pressure that you're willing to put on Quinn Sullivan at this point of his young career, but I think that the weight of the world on the shoulders is probably there for him because of the fact that now granted, some guys are, I don't know how much Jesus Bueno is going to factor into this weekend, but you're going to be without your starting goalie,
Yep.
Your immediate backup center mid in center defense in Damian Lowe, starting Jose Martinez, starter Daniel Gazdag, and of course Nate Harriel and Jack McGlynn, who are with the Olympic men's team camp. So I don't know what to expect from this weekend against Portland, who has played well so far this year. But I think you're asking for a lot if you're saying, let's just get this thing over with, because to me, I think this to me screams, and I don't know, I haven't checked in on how many guys Portland's missing just yet. They could be missing an equal amount of guys, but this to me screams they go up to Portland and just mail this thing in. Now, you could park the bus for 90 minutes and come away with a 0-0, 1-1 draw, but you likely are probably – the hill is going to be steep to climb for this weekend.
Yeah.
Especially being on the road for what now, the third straight week?
This will be their third straight road game. Provo and John, nice to have you here as well. No, we are soundproofed here. I could not hear Devon and Kyle screaming in the other studio because they're on the other side of our office, and it's soundproofed here, so I actually can't hear much going on outside these walls, which now makes me concerned if there was an emergency, would we hear anything? But
no.
No, we wouldn't.
Renee, real quick, I'm sorry to get you off topic here. I worked in radio for a really long time.
Of course.
And we've had fire alarms go off during shows.
Oh, no.
Most of the time they're building tests, right? Nothing serious. But you can't hear the alarm from the studio, but you can see the blinking, strobe lights. And so you just have to assume that something's wrong. And then you open the studio door and it's just blares into your ear. Because radio studios are we're pretty soundproof. The radio studios are vault lock tight.
Yeah.
It was bad.
I don't hear anything going on out there right now.
This is much better than what we had. You could,
our loss apparently, Provo and John is saying. But yes, Gavin, I like that you're wanting to learn more about soccer. Getting involved, playing it on video games is a great start because that's a great way to learn the players, learn the rules and everything.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Honestly, as someone that played soccer and I played basketball, I always compare the two. There's a lot of similarities between the two, which is where the Union they're actually struggling right now because they're not locking in on those basic core movements and concepts that you have for basketball or soccer. The off-ball movement's not great. Their offense is a little bit stale, very predictable, and definitely their best opportunities in offense usually come set pieces or in transition. And that makes it tough for the run of play where you have, much like in your half-court offense for basketball, you don't have that same ability to set up a good half-court offense in soccer because it's just predictable. It's the same runs, it's the same movement. Defenders, you're not creating that separation to get open. And then defensively on top of that, you're not defending well. You're not getting numbers behind the ball. And so as you add to that, to add insult to injury, here comes an international break because in MLS play, we love this. Every once in a while, there's the overlap of guys have to leave in the middle of the season, leave their club teams to go play for their national teams, and you're still playing MLS games. And this is the first break. But there's going to be more where you're without a number of players. And the Philadelphia Union coming up on their game Saturday. And Tyler, I'm trying not to talk about Saturday's game, but you're taking us there.
I'm sorry.
Saturday, they do have 8 players that are missing from their lineup. Honestly, they have one of the most across the league. There are other teams, Orlando City actually being one of them, that also is going to be missing some key players. But for the Philadelphia Union, it's right down the middle. When you mentioned you're having your starting goalkeeper, across your back line, you're going to be missing 2 out of 4 of your back line. You're going to be missing 3 out of 4 of your midfielders. You're going to be missing Ty Baribo, Jesus Bueno, who Bueno has started for them. You're missing one of your leading goal scorers. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be great. And I do want to first say congratulations to Nate Harriel and Jack McGlynn for getting the call up. That is an exciting part because this is for them another major opportunity as they got called in for the U.S. men's Olympic team training camp that's coming up. The camp is going to be in Spain and France. Of course, they're preparing for the Summer Olympics this year, and the Philadelphia Union have 2 guys for the first time in a while on the U.S. men's national team that they're actually represented. So it's great that they were called in, and with that, there are across the roster, there are 10 players that have been a part of all 3 men's Olympic team training camps so far. Nate and Jack are 2 of those 10 players. So it looks like they're doing a really good job of working themselves into the final roster. The roster does have players from 17 different clubs. 8 of those clubs are Major League Soccer clubs. So that's incredible to see between the 11 players that are from, other countries, Germany, Belgium, Italy, England, Netherlands, Mexico, that they play in other leagues. There are 8 different teams in MLS that are represented across the U.S. men's national team, and the Philadelphia Union have 2 of them. And they're 2 young guys that are really making a name for them. So that part's exciting, just as exciting as it is to see Rainiel in the chat. What's up, Rainiel? Nice to have you here. But Tyler, for those 2, another cap, another opportunity for them to go play with the U.S. men's national team. Yep. They, of course, were part of the January training camp. They were part of last season. And now they're going to be also involved in the friendlies that are going down this upcoming March.
Yeah, I think super deserving for both of these guys too.
Yeah.
Like, I have really sung Jack McGlynn's praises this year. I think he is the best pure passer on this team.
Yes.
Like, not set piece, because I know that Kai Wagner takes a lot of the set pieces.
Good point.
But I think he is the best pure in-game passer that this team has. And quite frankly, I think he's developed his overall game, because I was a little concerned about his I was a little bit concerned about his defense when he first started, and I think it's gotten better. I was a little bit concerned about how he can progress in the attack, and it's gotten significantly better. And the one thing that we knew that he was going to be, his field vision is tremendous, and it's just gotten better. And so for him, I think that it's a significant honor. And then for Nate Harriel, I think it's a guy who has really taken an opportunity by the reins, because he was not a starter. And I think that it was Olivier Baizo's job to lose. And quite frankly, over the last couple of, the back end of last year and the beginning of this year, Nate Harriel's proven he's the better of the 2. I think, no disrespect to Baizo. I think he's probably on the downswing of his career a little bit. Not that he's old, but I just think that Harriel's rising and Baizo may be falling a little bit.
Definitely.
But Harriel, even if he was stagnant or Baizo was stagnant, I think Harriel's done a tremendous job of taking this job, and running with it and becoming the, barring, red cards and injuries and, removals because of international selection, he's become one of the everyday outside backs for this team. He's been quite good. I've been really impressed with Nate Harriel's run.
He's been helping them score goals too. I mean, you look at this past weekend. I mean, Nate Harriel is contributing now. Of course, on the other side, he's unfortunately been involved with a number of goals they've given up, but that comes the responsibility of being an everyday starter, that you're going to have on the defensive side, maybe some letdowns. So hopefully that can get better. Some fun facts for you guys, because this is, first of all, the U.S. men's national team, for the Olympic team specifically, this is their first time being back in the Olympic Games since 2008, because, of course, on the U.S. men's side, they haven't had the same success as the women, so they don't automatically get into, they're not a team that's consistent, I should say, in the Olympics and getting bids to be able to play in the international tournaments. And so they did have, for head coach Marko Mitrovic, they called in 22 players. Of course, for them, you can only have 3 guys over the age of 23. So that's what also works in the favor of Jack McGlynn and Nate Harriel, because they are younger. The Olympic tournament is specifically designed for the young talent to be able to be on the world stage. So, this summer, hopefully those 2 have done enough to work themselves in, because there have been a lot of, different combinations of names and players that have worked themselves into the men's national team, into the training camp for the Olympics. And Jack and Nate are definitely consistently proving themselves in that mix. And now they have, as I mentioned with those scrimmages, this is where the international break also hurts. So they have to go travel to, of course, a whole different continent. And they're now going to, and not just for them, because outside of these 2, there are, as I mentioned, 8 total Union players that are going to be participating in the international break. These 2 are just playing with the U.S. men's Olympic team. And they have a scrimmage against Guinea that is this Friday, actually, because that's the 22nd. That's going to be in Spain. Then they're going to be March 25th. They're going to be in France. You're now also getting some games where you're playing extra minutes. You're traveling in the midst of all this. This is where soccer, and I was just talking about this past week, I should say a few times, the MLS needs to change the rules, because if you're going to have teams, now you have 8 players, and about 6 of them are starters that are going to be missing. 6 of your 11 starters are going to be missing. And I don't have the list in front of me exactly, but I believe it was about 6 of them, because Ty Baribo and Jesus Bueno do not start. So yes, 6 of your 11 starters are going to be gone during the international break. You still have to play games. they need to figure out the roster sizing to make sure that you can still have, without having to pull from wherever,
right.
Union 2,
Well,
that you still have Union 1 players, because with injuries and the international break, the bench just got extremely short.
Yeah, and I think,
of actual Union 1 players on the senior team.
Yeah, I think you're right with the roster construction, because the other alternative that you hear proposed all the time, I think, just doesn't work in the United States, and it's go to the European system, European schedule.
Right.
But the problem is here. Now, granted, you could sit here and say, well, it snows in England, and it snows in northern France, and it snows in Ireland,
closing
and
your
Belgium,
stadiums
and whatever. But like the fact that you go to the European schedule, it doesn't work when you have teams in Colorado, in Vancouver, in Minnesota. Like I understand that those teams in Europe, Belgium and Croatia, and a lot of most European countries, for the most part, have a similar weather system to what we have here. But I think it would be foolish to try to jump to the play over the winter type schedule to alleviate this a little bit. But I think it would do more harm than good on the product.
Okay.
So the only option at this point is to expand roster sizes.
I think that's simpler.
To maneuver roster sizes in a way that you can have the allowance of extra, senior team players.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's what it comes down to. If you have to choose between extending the season, so now you're playing deeper into the winter, which already for the MLS, the season is extremely long.
It's a long season already.
They start preseason the Union were in Clearwater early February, and then games are starting late February. Or I'm sorry, January they were there. They literally had like 2 months of quote unquote off season before they kicked off preseason in January. First game, February 21st it was. So it's not a lot of downtime, and they already have such a long season that there's not even a lot within the calendar year to even be able to add more games. So what you can do, though, is tweak the roster rules and make it so that players, when they leave, you still have a good core, number of guys that are available to play. So it is very wild when you think about it. And hopefully we're going to see some changes, because you definitely need to have a better routine, a better structure, a better system in place that allows for the products to not take a hit, to still have quality, and to still have the numbers that you can be able to have good MLS games. The other part of that is now you're going to have teams without 5, 6, 7 starters. And what does that look like for their team? How does that correlate and translate onto the pitch when you're missing so many key players, and you have a huge gaping gap within your roster, and trying to figure out how to best alleviate that? I know that requires more money. I know that requires more planning, but I think in the long run, it's worth it. But you know what else is worth it, Tyler? That is that is taking advantage of some great deals on the Game Time app, because the Game Time app allows you to take away the stress and the burden of buying tickets. Over the Game Time app, when you download it today and use code PHOY, you'll be able to get $20 off of your purchase. And the best thing about the Game Time app is they make it a lot simpler for you to be able to buy those tickets to any concert, any comedy show, game, anything sports and entertainment that you want to check out. The Game Time app is the place to go buy those tickets. Great for those last minute deals. They want to give you the lowest price matched which is what their goal is. And then also you get a chance to see your picture. I know we were down at spring training for the Phillies this past week, and being down in Clearwater at Baycare, we were like, you know what? The seats we found these seats that were behind this huge balcony, essentially, that was blocking. And with that, you couldn't see the batter, you couldn't see the catcher, you could see about 95% of the field, but you couldn't see one of the most important parts of the field. You actually even couldn't see one of the dugouts. It was a really tough angle. And had somebody bought tickets for that seat, that'd be disappointing. But with the Game Time app, you don't have to worry about that, because you can see your seats before you go. You can make sure there's nothing obstructing your view. You're not going to have a big column or a balcony or whatever that's blocking your view. So head on over to the Game Time app, download it today, use that code PHOY to be able to get $20 off of your purchase. And then also now, get your tickets, see your seats, great prices, and also be able to show up at the door with your tickets on your phone, not like the guy that I saw sitting nearby that had a printed out ticket, the old school classic, which is great, nothing wrong with that, tickets, but instead you can have your tickets right on your phone. And as we're also talking about convenience and great prices, a great spot for that to have great food, Bagels & Co. So our friends at Bagels & Co. have a ton of different locations nearby. And honestly, they make such delicious breakfast sandwiches. You can have them breakfast, lunch, or dinner. If you want a nice pork roll and egg, no cheese, hold the cheese for me, please. No queso. They have that for you. If you want to make sure you can have variety of options, I know I said that just for you, Tyler. For your bagels, for your cream cheese, Bagels & Co. is the place to do it. They've got 15 to 20 different types of bagels to choose from daily. They have seasonal bagels. They have festive holiday themed ones. They've had some St. Patrick's Day bagels in honor of St. Patrick's Day this past week. If you want to top of the morning to you with some bagels, you can do it at Bagels & Co. They also have huge, large bagels. And then they also have a variety of cream cheeses and schmears. And with that, you get 30 different flavors of cream cheeses. Also getting some very festive ones. They give you some Philly sports ones, Philadelphia Union, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Eagles, a variety of different cream cheeses that you now have the opportunity to sink your teeth into some delicious bagels. Options, variety, and great prices that don't require you to break the bank to eat well for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So for the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly, head on over to thebagelsandco.com, find a location nearest you, and you can get some Brooklyn-style bagels made in Philly with Philly love right now. Right now. Go take advantage over at Bagels & Co. All right. Well, as we talk through the excitement of, all that's been happening around, excitement is one way to put it. Could be also frustrating. All that is happening around the Union. There is one good thing that has been going on. The food takes on your network of podcasts is baffling.
Well, hold on. It's not the network. I mean, I can't speak for the other shows.
Yeah, I don't know what everybody else is. I don't read everybody or listen to everybody else's ad reads.
Our shows, it's you. It's just you.
Me?
Yeah, you. Your food takes are bad.
Well, I don't know what other people's are. I can't say. I'm probably not alone. Pablo and John, drop another food take that you've noticed.
You and me. When I say our, I mean literally you and me. We're on 2 shows together. That means, and amongst the 2 shows that you were on, there are 5 of us in total. So 4 of us in total.
Wow, that's great math, Tyler.
It's bad math.
That was bad.
Bad math. It's the 4 of us in total. I would say of the 100% of bad food takes, 70% of them are yours.
Me?
Yeah.
That's just not true.
I mean, cheese is a big one.
That's just not true.
Really, really big one.
No, Provo and John, please share with us who else gives bad food takes. It's not just me. Help me out here.
So I know
Devon's
not an egg guy. He doesn't like eggs.
Yeah, that's weird. Who doesn't like eggs?
Devon.
Okay, no. Who else doesn't like eggs? I mean, that's
weird.
weird.
I don't know. I'm just telling you.
You guys don't like drinking milk. That's weird. Who doesn't drink milk?
Milk in things, sure. Are we doing this again?
No, we're not doing this again. We had this conversation earlier. We had this conversation yesterday because I ordered a glass of milk at breakfast, and Jamie and Tyler looked at me like I had 10 heads.
Well, no, I looked at you like you were a child, like you were 7.
I wanted a glass of milk with my pancakes. Okay.
I'm not making
get everybody's.
No, okay.
Better. Bill doesn't like turkey. Him and Chris don't like turkey. That's weird.
You're not making this any better.
Yeah. Okay. Provo and John is saying Devon also
pancakes.
My milk and my pancakes.
Yeah, your milk and pancakes.
My milk and my pancakes bring all the people to the show.
Did you get it on like your?
It's better than yours.
Your dinosaur plate.
Dinosaur plate.
Yeah, as a kid, you used to have
Oh, I actually do own some of those
plates.
They were so fun. It made eating that much better because you got done and you could see the little picture at the bottom. Okay, Provo and John is helping me out here. It's not just me. Devon has some weird food takes because he also doesn't like eggs either. Bam. Psh, not just me, Tyler. It's not just me. It's you. It's not me. It's you guys. Maybe I'm the normal one. All right. You know what else is a little bit abnormal, but it's becoming a normal thing? Teenagers that are getting these superstar teams interested in them. And I remember talking about this on Twitter with somebody that was like, we can't keep this. It's wrong. What was it? What was the wording, Tyler? It's wrong and weird to be talking about these 14-year-old kids and being excited about their professional careers. And listen, only a pervert is looking at the Cavan Sullivan news and taking it the wrong way. This is a talented 14-year-old. And in today's day and age, first of all, it's not new. There have been other names that have played professional sports and inked professional contracts as kids, as teenagers. You look across golf, tennis, even table tennis, which I didn't know that. I was Googling some. There's some table tennis superstars out there that are 13, 14 years old. Basketball, especially in other countries outside of America, where you don't have to go through the typical college process. You can become a pro at any age. Soccer is right there too. Hockey also has some. It's a little more difficult, but hockey's had some. But Cavan Sullivan, younger brother of Quinn Sullivan, Captain America, as some have even called him at times, he has been listed as one of the best young players in the world. Born and raised right in our backyard, more South Jersey though, but we'll claim him in Philly too, of course, because he plays with the Philadelphia Union Academy team. And with that, there have been a number of clubs around the world that are heavily pursuing signing Cavan Sullivan. He has already had a number of success. At the age of 14, he's already been able to, earn the Golden Ball for the best player at the CONCACAF U15 Championships, helped the U.S. U15 team to win the 2023 championships. He's someone that head coach Jim Curtin has mentioned is going to be a household name. The Philadelphia Union 2 coach, Marlon LeBlanc, was saying he's like such a fantastic young talent and has developed at a rate faster than any kid he's ever coached and has ever seen. And that he has like a level of maturity and talent that just surpasses so many. So what does that all mean? At 14 years old, he's already had clubs like Real Madrid, Borussia, Dortmund, Bayern Munich, Manchester City, different clubs that have PSG, different clubs that have been interested in him. And as of this past weekend, it did break that he is in contract discussions. The deal is not officially done as of the second that we're having this conversation for Cavan Sullivan to play with Manchester City. The current points that have been discussed is that he will, because he's only 14, he will be loaned to City Football Group Club Lommel SK when he turns 16, sweet 16, now go play professionally. And then at 18, he would be able to play with Manchester City. At 14 years old, he's already been in the process of finalizing a professional contract that doesn't even allow him to play with Manchester City until he's 18 years old. That is where we are in 2024, folks.
Well, I mean, this is super exciting for Cavan Sullivan and his family. Like, this is an incredible opportunity. And when you watch this kid play, there is like a level of finesse that is, it's one of those things that you don't see on a professional level until you're in the professional setting for a while. What I mean by that is like his skill set and the way that he carries himself is very, very impressive. And so like this is a really awesome opportunity for this kid to go play professionally at a very high level and then one day go play for maybe the best club team in the world. I mean, at this point, is Man City, I mean, they're top 5 definitively, but maybe the best club team in the world. And so when you look at the fact that one of the best club teams in the world has shown interest in his skill set and to be able to give him his like first real professional opportunity, it's super impressive. I mean, the kid is really, really gifted, and I think that this is deserving, and it's a really awesome opportunity for him and his family to, begin his professional journey.
Yeah, it's extremely exciting for him, for his family, as you mentioned, because it's well-deserved. Like, it's, as you mentioned, this is something that is so unprecedented in the fact that you have a chance to go play with one of the best clubs in the world in Manchester City. Yeah. But I always go back to if you have a teenager that's talented enough to play at such a high level at a young age, why stunt their growth? Why make them have to go play high school, play college, stay in the Union Academy program, and you're just dominating? And listen, there have been names like Freddie Adu, for example, who was 14 also when he was signed by DC United and drafted way back in 2004, 20 years ago that went down. And Freddie Adu was one that had all these extremely high expectations. And some can say it didn't pan out the way people would have thought. He still had a very long career. He still had a chance to play in various countries, France, Brazil, Greece, Turkey. Is it a failure? I don't know. I mean, sure, he didn't end up being one of the best soccer players of all time, but he still had a long professional soccer career. I know there was another player who actually just became the youngest across sports, the America's youngest pro. He signed a deal, 13 years old, 5 months and 13 days, because they do track that for athletes for their youth. Davion Kimbrough, I'm so sorry if I said his name incorrectly, who signed as a soccer player. He signed with the USL, the Sacramento Republic, who play in the second tier league championship of the USL, became the youngest pro, 13 years old. You know, he joined the youth academy team in 2021 at that time, and he was 13. So it's different, and it's weird because everyone's like, they're just kids, they're just kids. But it doesn't matter. If you have a singer, for example, that's a really good singer, are you going to make them just stay singing in their like middle school choir? Or you're going to, how many times do we see kids become these superstar singers or guitar players or whatever, dancers, whatever, and they're kids? If you have the talent that transcends where you are now in your environment, why put them in a box and try to make them stay there?
Well,
You wouldn't say that with, you know, a celebrity kid chef or a celebrity singer, or even an actor for that matter, of like, oh, you're a really great actor, but you can only act in your school plays because you're only 9.
Well, I think
Doesn't happen.
it's difficult because you have, especially for a player that's going to go play overseas, you have to have a really good mentor,
For
or
sure.
maybe your parents go with you. It's because it's not about skill set. It's about the ability to
Yes.
mature and grow up and be, and like the thing is too, like there is a part of it where you just go, you know, does a kid want to be a kid and just like
Right.
be able to enjoy
Mhm.
being, be able to enjoy being a kid for as long as you can, because being an adult's hard. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, I'd love to go back to being 14 sometimes.
Like being a professional and being an
For
adult
some
and
reasons.
like worrying about those things are not something that you want to just force upon this
Yeah.
kid just because he's really skillful and really talented at his craft. So
Exactly.
it's a difficult line to walk. Of they have to really have a good, a mentor, or their parents are with them, or a
Mhm.
coach who allows them to, go through life and growing pains and things like that. Because if it's just about his skill set, then you're doing him a disservice from a mental
Mhm.
health standpoint. You're doing him a disservice from a maturation standpoint. You're doing him a disservice just like from a people to people standpoint. So I
Mhm.
understand where people say that this is a really fine line to walk at the professional setting,
Exactly.
between skill set and how, like I look back, it was when I was like 13, 14. And if I were put into a position where I was now like this wonder kid at my
Yeah.
job, I would I would need to rely upon my parents. I would need to rely
Correct.
upon my mentors. I would need to rely upon the people that I trusted to make sure that I'm in the right spot at the right time, and I'm not getting into trouble, and I'm allowed to grow
Right,
up.
right.
And
And
so
that's what's always the concerning part.
I get it's a really difficult line to walk, of like skill set wise, he's ready to play at this high level. And
Mhm.
also sometimes you just got to allow, a kid to be a kid.
Yeah.
So I get
Yeah.
it. I totally understand where both sides are.
And that's
coming
the
from.
thing. Like at the end of the day, if you are so talented and you are just a child, you do see a lot of times these child superstars and celebrities that grow up and get into all types of craziness and trouble because they never had a chance to be a kid, possibly, and they were exploited and, you know, exposed to too much too soon. And I do agree with that, and I do really just hope that for Cavan's sake, it already seems like his family, especially having Quinn Sullivan, who's, you know, 19, 20 years old, that's playing professionally. They also have another, there's another brother. um they have, it seems like, a good family structure that allows them to be involved, because that's the other side of it. You're going to Manchester City. Are you just being sent over there and now you're just spending for yourself at 16, 17, 18 years old? Or you're going to have, you know, the family, the mentors, the maturity even to be able to grow up. So I do think that is what it always comes down to. On the talent side, I believe in putting everybody in the best environments that fosters their growth. But on the maturity side, you also have to foster that. And I know a lot of times you hear these stories, because I know even in the NWSL right now, there are some players that are 15 years old, for example, and in interviews, it's been talked about their teammates having to almost take them under their wing, almost like a mom to them, to help them, you know, okay, you're going to be involved with the team. You're going to hang out with the team sometimes, but sometimes you're not, because you're a child, you know, and we don't, you know, there are certain lines and limits, and you might have to still have, you know, a chaperone in that sense at times, like whatever it takes to keep them safe, and also to make sure that they are able to process all of this. It's a lot when you have, and I know that they talked about it with Cavan specifically, of like the maturity, the support. You know, he really handles it well. But as we all know, even as an adult, I always say it's a lot even for me to deal with being like, quote unquote, a public figure and people recognizing you and this, this, that, and the third. I can't imagine that at 14 years old and on a much bigger stage. You're talking on the world stage. Manchester City is the world stage, one of the biggest clubs ever in soccer. And you're having the talks with them at 14 years old. How do you stay, how do you stay focused? How do you stay balanced? How do you make sure you're not getting too cocky and too ahead of yourself? There's a lot to it. And then on the other side of it is you now are just in a whole different world. You're inking these large contracts. You're making good money. You're not in school. That's why school is helpful. The structure, the routine, it's not just about what you're learning in textbooks. So overall, I'm excited for Cavan Sullivan. And I really, really, really hope they do a good job of just keeping him level, keeping him on track, because he has a lot of talent. And you'd hate to see that get squashed and squandered because he's exposed too soon, so to speak, to the, life as a professional and life as an adult. So fingers crossed on that. And we'll continue watching his career unfold, Tyler, and talking about it and seeing how it progresses, just like we're going to continue to see how the Union progress in their pursuit of their first MLS win. But yeah, other than that, I think it's just been quite a week for the Philadelphia Union overall, from Cavan Sullivan.
For us too.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it has been. It really has been. That's why I typed on Twitter, Manchester United. I'm like, listen, if people knew, we flew in last night from Florida, from spring training. My brain is fried. Not that that's an excuse, because I don't like to live in the land of excuses, but my brain is fried. So thank you guys so much for tuning with us, though. We appreciate you. Jillian, nice to have you here jumping in. I know you're saying how you agree with Tyler. The support system is big, and not just for kids. Let's be honest. All athletes need that same support system.
I don't even think it has to be athletes. I still have.
Well, everybody.
I still need a support system.
Yes, everybody needs that support system. Good point.
I mean, listen, I'm 30 years old now, and when things go wrong, the first people I call are my mom and dad.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they're my support system. Now, granted, it's a little bit different where I'm not going to them and running and saying, fix this.
Sometimes I might, mom and dad.
But you're going to them for advice. You know what I mean? Hey, dad, maybe you've been through this situation. Hey, mom, you know what? You know me and you know how my mental works. Help me through this. It becomes different as you age, but you don't ever not have a support system. And the people might change, right? It might be your parents when you're young.
Your village might look different.
It's your spouse when you're older, or your best friend, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, right.
And that's why I've always said I'm incredibly lucky to have two parents that I not only respect and appreciate, but they're my friends now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a different relationship. But
totally.
But whoever you still need one just because you're an adult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think that we so often get caught up in you reach a point where your talent, your age, your finances make you kind of above things. And that's not true. 14-year-old Cavan needs support. It's just a different type of support. Just like Jillian and Provo and John and Renee and Gavin and Tyler and myself, we also need that same support too, of people encouraging you. I mean, even something as simple as helping you work through the long days and figure whatever. You always need that help. So fingers crossed that things continue to move forward for Cavan Sullivan at the right pace for him. And I hope he's able to be vocal enough of what he wants and what he's looking for in his career and what he's wanting to do. That's a big part of it too. Sometimes, unfortunately, you see the reverse of that, where kids kind of get forced into things because of the dollar signs and whatever else, and not allowing the kid to have a say in what they want in their future. So let's just hope for the best. I hope for the best for him. I know we all do, and are excited to see how his career continues. But we will be back on Thursday. We'll be going live again to talk through specifically about the upcoming game. We'll take that opportunity to preview Portland versus the Union. Back on the road, third straight game on the road for the Union, and another chance to see if they can get that first MLS win. Another chance to see if they can maybe get a shutout, get a win, score some goals. There's just a few things we want to see this Saturday for that 10:30 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. So for us here at PHOI Union, hopefully our buddy JP safe travels back from Puerto Rico. He'll be joining us back on Thursday on the show. Live will be at our normal time, 3:30. And then again, next week, we do reset back to Monday and Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Thanks for working with us around the craziness of spring training and our schedules that we've been able to still have a chance to chat Union and MLS and all things soccer with you. So have a great rest of your Tuesday. See you back in just a couple days here on PHOI Union Podcast. For Tyler, Zulli, myself, Renee, Washington, have a terrific Tuesday. See you guys soon.
all silly like the mayor.